Hey everyone, and welcome to the In-House Podcast where tastemaker fashion goes digital. And today we're joined by April Walker. You know her as the founder of the iconic Walker Wear brand, as a stylist for some of the industry's biggest stars, and an outspoken leader in fashion. Now she's a professor and the creative director of brand incubation here at In-House. April, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
And we are so honored to have you, not just because you're part of the In-House family, but, you're an OG in every sense of the word. We've talked about how iconic your brand is and that you are as a person. And we're so thankful for you imparting some wisdom on us today.
I'm ready. Let's get started. Thankful to
Well,
be here.
let's do it. April, you've always been an entrepreneur. In fact, I believe you started teaching kids gymnastics at 13 at Cadman Memorial Church. So tell us a little bit about how that entrepreneurial spirit was nurtured in your youth. How did that start?
I can remember, I don't know if it was innate, but I know my father was always pressing us to try different things. And my mother and father had us in everything from gymnastics to dance classes to acting and what else? Like everything you can think of, singing classes. I cannot sing at all, but
Me neither. So don't worry about it.
but the point is, we had to try it, right? And we had to stick with it and embarrass ourselves. And I think from that, we gained that fearless spirit and going after it. And then I can remember, now I'm really dating myself, but the bicentennial, it was 1976, from 1776 to 1976. It was 200 years, and they were celebrating that. And my father took me to Pro Paints. I was a kid. I was so young. And he said, we're going to go and we're going to make t-shirts and sell them for the bicentennial. And he always had these crazy ideas. So I was embarrassed, but he dragged me to Pearl Paints. Pearl Paints was this legendary art supply store on Canal Street that everybody frequented that was an artist. And it was like my eyes opened up, and we actually drew a sailboat, said the bicentennial. We did all the artwork. We took it over to Pearl Paints. We bought ink. We had a screen made there. I learned about this whole process. We came home and stayed up all night, and we squeegeed these screen printed shirts. And the next day, tired and everything, we went out there and sold them all. And I remember him showing me a wad and him going, see this? This is what you just did. And I think that was the first seed when I look back. And I was a kid, then.
That's amazing.
Where'd you sell them?
We sold them right there, at the actual celebration, right off the FDR.
There you go. That's a good sales.
That's awesome. Exactly. And, at a young age, you obviously had that experience, but pretty quickly you moved from, screen printing things with your dad to going into the garment district and really kind of, looking for not just, things to resell, things to make on your own. When you look back on your life from a girl who was collaging hang tags around her room to someone who arguably created the largest fashion movement, of this or the latter half of last century, like what moments do you cherish the most from that journey?
Man, that's such a difficult question, honestly, because it's like all of the moments made this moment,
Of course.
and they were all so different. But I think that when I look back, it was the muddy middle that I really missed, the magic of the team and the grind and like just that figuring out and almost like pulling a rabbit out the hat. Like, because when you're under finance, which we were, we had to be very innovative in our thought process because we didn't have the budgets that a Tommy Hilfiger or someone else we were competing with did. But what we did was we were young, we were innovative, and we knew our tribe because we were the tribe. So we had that, same thing in common. So we knew where they hung, what they looked like, what they ate, what they dressed like, and what they needed, what the market wasn't offering. So that was, I think, our point of differentiation. We were just in love with the hip hop culture, and I think that was what brought me in.
Yeah, and that's incredible. And I mean, you had great tastemakers to look up to as well. You know, like I remember you having mentioned that seeing Run DMC and LL Cool J at MSG like totally turned your world upside down. And you're like,
Absolutely.
these are people who, you know, looked like you and came from places you came from, and really you could see yourself in them. And that's something that, you know, obviously was really special. So how do you think it's important for this next generation of designers and tastemakers really to look towards, you know, similar leadership? Because obviously the world, you know, now is a lot more diverse and inclusive, but there's obviously a long way to go. So who do you encourage these younger generations to look to?
I think they have to look inside. I think that the influences are going to be abundant. Like, right now I'm in Colorado, and all I'm seeing is different colored trees and leaves, and the color palettes are incredible. Like, there's the no Pantones that could pick up these colors I'm looking at in the sky. And so that's very much inspiring me. But whether it's people, places, or things, I think that we all get triggered by ideas that speak to us, right? And it's up to us to harness those, but also understand why, and to trust that voice that's speaking to you, and not look for affirmation or validation so much outside, but to know you have something unique to express, right? Because I think that when we look to see what everybody else is doing, we miss the magic of what we have to offer. And I think that if we do what everybody else is doing, it's gonna make us the same, you know. So like Run DMC, they were great for me because they were validation for me, in the sense of everything I learned about dress for success was a lie that I was being told. Seeing them on stage with shell toe Adidas and leather pants and these fedoras, I was like, wow. So I don't have to be a suit and a tie at a job interview. I can do something different, that the world has never seen. So I just would really push all young people to think more like that than going with the status quo, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I think, like you pointed out correctly, inspiration can come from so many places. And I think one example, maybe in your background, is, you visited Dapper Dan in Harlem, and that encouraged you to launch your own fashion store. At the time, it was Fashion Effect that later became the Walker Wear brand. And so, one question we want to ask is, what entrepreneurs or artists inspired you the most then and now? Who are people that you look at and you say, wow, that person is inspiring me, and I like the way they're doing something.
A lot of artists are inspiring me. Tyler, the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
I think he just represents that different that we were just talking about. I like Joey Badass.
I
Joey
love
is
Joey Badass.
very, yeah, he
And his new album is amazing. So
he gives me I mean, I'm a big fan of J. Cole. I think that they're very nostalgic of then, but now to me, I love Kendrick Lamar.
of course.
I think he's pushing the culture forward. Messaging is important to me too. So, in terms of females, there's some females. I love Rhapsody. I like what Rhapsody is doing. I think she's innovative. There are a lot of old school, but still out there, like Moni Love. There's still some people swinging with aim that I like, but on the whole, I dig through the crates more. So like Sky Zoo, I don't know if you know Sky Zoo. He's pretty dope. He's out of Brooklyn. Torre. There's I'm more underground.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a great answer. I
Dean
think
Day, most definitely. I'm True
Black
Blue.
Star.
I love Beyonce's new album.
The Beyonce's new album's good. Beyonce's new album's good, and it's also
I love to dance and work out on that.
yeah. The TikTok
Okay.
trends are going crazy over it.
I know.
I find myself doing those TikTok dances sometimes. I don't even expect it.
Really?
Yeah, I like that. I'm a terrible dancer. I don't want to, I could have used your lessons. I'm trying.
Is it Corday? I like Corday too. I want to make sure I'm saying, but Corday, right? You
Yeah,
Yeah,
know,
he's great
4 days awesome too.
D Smoke.
for sure.
I love D Smoke too. It's so many.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about, I mean, something I think is cool about what we're seeing now is there's a lot of different types. The music has broken off into different, it's a spectrum now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
subgenres.
Subgenres,
So
and I think that makes it so cool. Like I have one of my favorite rappers, for example, is Lil Uzi Vert, but he's completely different than one of my all-time favorites, like Jay Z. But at the same time, I can listen to them back to back, and it's totally
right.
different. And just like that, just like music has evolved, streetwear has also evolved, right? I mean, we're
Yeah.
seeing changes over time, and so I think one interesting thing to figure out from your perspective is what has changed and what has changed and what has stayed the same. What are those differences in your opinion?
I think the evolution of streetwear from when we first started. It's funny because in the 80s, when I was in high school, we used to dress up in Oscar de la Renta and Gucci and MCM, and now they're back full circle, right?
Man, you
But
must have sold a lot of T-shirts at the Bicentennial to dress in Oscar de la Renta in high
no,
school.
you know what it is? We knew. So Gucci had an outlet. Just
Oh
they used
yeah,
to have an outlet right on the side of where you are, pretty much where your offices are. Right near Gucci, the store. If you went to the side street, you could go up to the second floor and you can get all kinds of discontinued or last. It was the bomb. They don't have it anymore, but we would get deals and steals. So
I
that
love
was
I
that.
love
fun.
that.
And then also Sims. I don't even know if it's in existence now, but back in my day, Sims was the bomb. They sold Oscar de la Renta everything from Ralph Lauren and they would have the stuff that you come to school and look like, who is that girl? But you really bought it for $14.99.
The greatest
So
feeling.
it
There's
is,
nothing like
right?
it. It's nothing like, because sometimes every year I go to Woodbury Commons once a year, right?
Exactly. It's probably what Woodbury Commons is now.
I,
So,
I love that trip up, and I come back and I buy some name brand stuff and I wear it all the time, and I'm just like, I feel amazing. I just got a steal on this, like nobody knows that. It's my
right. So in
Yeah,
high school, that's how we were, Sassoon, Gloria Vanderbilt, all that stuff. And then we came and we started creating for ourselves, right?
yeah.
And then it started evolving into this whole industry that's created now. And there's streetwear and there's activewear, contemporary menswear, etc. The difference is now we have more independent designers competing with the Gucci's of the world, etc. And there are a lot of great designers out there. Sergio Hudson, there are a lot of them that are Noel that are doing luxury. And streetwear to me is literally what just a title. It's really lifestyle, right? So it's how you
yeah,
dress it up.
absolutely. And you touch a little bit on how you know independent artists are making such an impact, and kind of where you started was that's how you really got off the ground. And something we find so interesting about Walkerwear is especially in contrast to a lot of brands today that just use kind of feel like everyone jokes about how all logos are the same now and things kind of just get lost and the originality is gone. Something about Walkerwear that's so interesting is you have multiple logos, all of which are really iconic in their own right, and none of which are kind of can be found elsewhere. You have the W logo, you have the WW logo, you have the Walkerwear full with the tree trunk embroidery style. Like,
Right.
how did those logos come to be? Because I think arguably they're a really uncommon thing to see nowadays, where there's that true originality. Where did those come from?
Are we seeing that on the earrings as well, April? I think I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I'm wearing my earrings today. That's the W.
There
Exactly.
you go, and that's an
Yeah,
example right there. See, I
right.
recognized it from here.
Yeah, good. We got a good eye. Uh, so the first, so when I first really started taking it seriously and decided I was going to really do this, I read a book called Swoosh, which was the unauthorized um, biography of Nike. And it was really a confirmation for me that I was doing things in the right way because they were very disruptive, as how they enter the market through track and field and through lifestyle of a tribe that wasn't fashion or wasn't the sports industry, but more about being true to what they believed in that, right?
Mhm.
And and then the other point for me marrying that was with my brand was Ralph Lauren. And I really respected Ralph Lauren and his business model in high school. I had a bunch of polo at that time. Is that a polo hat you're wearing right now? What is that logo you have on?
No, it's not. This is actually from one of our artists, Smoke Perp, but I appreciate the call out nonetheless.
Okay. But yeah, that horse and that, you know, polo horse and just all of it. At that time, he had double RL, he had polo jeans, there was Ralph Lauren, Lauren chaps. So I saw how he was creating this lifestyle and covering all bases under this overall arch umbrella. And it was a house of different divisions, right?
Mhm.
So as we were building Walkaware over time organically, we started getting calls from a lot of athletes that were asking us about the clothes because no one was making clothes at that time in double and triple X's or big and tall. That wasn't a thing then. So hip hop was on the rise. If you think about timing, Allen Iverson was a big part of changing the game, right? In
Of course.
fashion, the way
Yeah.
we think about hip hop and in that NBA, that tunnel. And so synonymous with that was us. We were building our brands, and these artists were finding out, seeing this Zigga Zigga, and they were finding out about us and they were calling. So we were willing to custom make things that would fit them. And then we started seeing it over and over. And then one day I got a call. So two things happened, I think, that really cemented the sports times fashion is lifestyle, period. One was the hockey jersey that we made, and that was early 90s. And it was kind of disruptive because at that time, there weren't many black hockey players. There weren't, you wouldn't see anyone outside of uh, mostly white people at the hockey games. So we were starting to enter and infiltrate. We did tennis dresses, we did hockey jerseys, we did things that typically we weren't involved in, and we just made them part of the lifestyle. We were really going for fashion at that point. And then we did the Rucker tournament. We had a team at Rutgers, a basketball team. We played Fat Joe's team, and it was fun. But that same year, we did a basketball jersey, and it took off. And that same year, Above the Rim was being filmed. So I got a call from Tupac, and Tupac said, "I want you to do the clothes for this movie I'm gonna be in." And that's how I got to meet the wardrobe Karen, who was the wardrobe director, supervisor for Above the Rim, and got to put stuff in that. So this whole aura of sports was going on, and I really felt like we need to roll this out because it's lifestyle off the court. We started dressing Shaq, and we were making stuff for Twism and their first samples, and going to All Star, and just really doing a lot of collaborations with Dennis Scott and Gary Payton and a lot of the Supersonics. So it just really caught a fire.
That's incredible. And I can see Rob staring right at this, knowing he wants to go right into his next question because you're already touching on some of the amazing just cultural leaders who you've worked with and really shaped the narrative yourself in a lot of ways. But I have to know first, have you archived some of these pieces? Like, I have to imagine you've held on to some original pieces from kind of the early days of the brand, because I mean, those have to end up in a museum one day, but for now, are they hanging out somewhere in the closet?
They are. So we've done some stuff. We did something at the Kunsthal Museum. We did at the Kunsthal. We did in Rotterdam. We did Voices of Fashion. We also did Street Dreams, which was really cool. And we've done some international stuff, and now we're doing 50 years in hip hop next year with FIT. They're going to have a really big exhibit that will be next year. So I do have a few archive pieces. I wish I would have known that things were going to turn out as they have, because I would have had samples of everything. But
Of
unfortunately,
course.
I did not know. So I wish now. I'm getting calls all the time, and I'm like, "Eesh, content is king." But I do have a few pieces. I have some of the original. I did 52 jackets for Tupac with Thug Life, and I still have a few of those. I have a few of our
That's
original
amazing.
rough and rugged jackets. I have Mike Tyson's trunks. I have some good keepers, from the ring.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that does lead into my next question pretty well. I mean, you've worked with some incredible names, and just to name a few for the audience, I mean, we're Biggie Smalls, Aaliyah, Tupac, Run DMC, Snoop Dogg, Mike Tyson, Naughty by Nature. It must be hard for you to kind of pick favorites and to kind of point out the differences in their fashion sense. But I do want to know, like, who did you notice had that sense of style? Who really stood out? And you said, okay, that this person gets it.
Tupac had his own style, like from the door. Even if you wanted to do something different, he would argue with you. So it would be like, it would definitely be some of him in there, unless it was just something he really loved, like the hockey jerseys was. He was like all in on those, and I started seeing him just wear them after. So I would say him with his bandana, it became such a thing, right? And then
Yeah,
I would
absolutely.
say Naughty by Nature, I would say Tretch with that big, we styled him for years. And just that mechanic suit that we did became very legendary with the big lock that he would wear with
Yep.
that, the chain. I'm thinking of other people, Aaliyah, just her
Yeah,
whole style, that became so iconic. Um, Jam Master Jay was the the fashion in Run DMC, and he brought a lot of innovation as a producer to the music. He was responsible for their music, but he also was very instrumental in their image and what. And he was actually the person that got them out of the same thing for years and said we have to start doing colors and stuff, and allowed me to experiment and do some different things. So I would say that Jam Master Jay was very visionary.
That's
that's
awesome. And see, they all came to you, so it says something about you, obviously, as well. And everything speaks for itself in terms of your fashion credentials. But we do like to play a little game here called Fit Check, where Ryan, our producer, has pulled some, pretty iconic fits that you've had over the years. We're
Oh
going to have
wow!
him share screen, dig into the Instagram archives, and we just want to hear a little bit more about what's happening in each of these. So first up, we got this one. Obviously, got the tracksuit going on, an iconic look both then and now. What do we have going on in this picture?
We are hanging at amateur night at the Apollo, and that's on 125th Street, right next to the Apollo
Yep.
Theater. And I have on a Benetton suit. I always say I want to redo that suit because I love that suit to this day. But yeah, that was one of my favorite suits, and I have on a butter soft leather dolman sleeve leather jacket. My cousin Kim has an Adrian Venedini suit, probably from Sims, and and my friend Janine is rocking. I don't know what she's rocking. Probably Guess, because that was her favorite thing. And like we said, Gucci was such a big thing there. I think we might have on. Um, I'm trying to see. Our sneaker game was pretty tight too. So yeah, that's that day.
That's awesome. See, I wish I took, I'm sure when I look back on my life, I'll say, why didn't I take this many fit pics, because this is aged very gracefully. So
Yeah.
love this one. Next one we got. So this one, Rob and I were talking about before the show. I mean, for me, this is like big modern day Game of Thrones vibes. That's what I get from this one.
absolutely, absolutely, and that's a very boss vibe right there.
That's what they wanted. And that's really, I'm glad you got that energy. I worked with Pat. This was actually with um, In Black magazine, and they did a really gracious feature. and cover with me. And so they wanted to show me in the light of boss vibes. And so that is what that is. But I like the boss vibes with Game of Thrones because that is exactly what it felt like.
It worked. It worked.
Next one we got here. Similar. See, Rob said this one was more Game of Thrones to him. This is like Stone Cold Killer. What's going on here? Same photo shoot or what was going on?
This reminds me of Mad Max meets Studio 54.
Okay.
Like it's just like like very futuristic, but then at the same time, like you could go to Disco Danny's party and party all night and just be stand out. You know what I mean? It's all sequence, it's dressed up. It could be a New Year's outfit too, but it's definitely kind of boss vibes at the same time.
Yeah, this to me is like if Aston Martin had a fashion show / New Year's party. That's what that says to me.
I like that.
And then the last one we got here, another throwback. We chose this for two reasons. For the people just listening, we have, the teal sweatsuit going on. But most importantly, the caption on this photo talk about just going to the roller rink, seeing LL Cool J around. I don't think that's something most people can relate to. But what was it like just, coming up around all these other, icons and you yourself obviously kind of leading the charge in fashion? What was it like just kind of bumping into LL Cool J at your local spots?
You know what was crazy? We were all pretty much on the same page. I mean, they were somewhat ahead, but we were also young and climbing that ladder that we were just dreaming high and us, with audacious dreams. So it was like when the beauty, and the beauty of being young is that you are invincible in your mind and you're like, we're doing this, So I think there was a lot of respect between us and just like watching each other grind and very supportive.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And since we were just doing, a little bit of the stalking on Instagram, obviously your Instagram name for those who follow you is Necessary Rebel. So I think that speaks for itself of kind of the trajectory of your career. But, what are you rebelling against today? Like what are the next frontiers that you're really focused on?
The next frontiers are education and global community work, activism. I am an avid wellness enthusiast. I'm starting a digital academy for all the entrepreneurs and makers and creators in this world. And I am really, really I want to keep circling up and keep growing. I want to be the best version of myself and really optimize every square inch of this life while I'm alive and really just feel like I've learned, I've grown, I've unlearned some things, and I've helped some other people along the way.
I think, that's a very interesting point, right? And we're seeing younger crowds as well get involved and try to kind of stake their claim to changing things. And I know you're a big believer in reverse mentorship. And obviously as a cultural pioneer, you are involved with that younger generation. And so out of curiosity, what are some young leaders today that inspire you? Who are some people that you see, like we talked about a little earlier, up and coming, that you say, okay, that person inspired me to learn something new or to relearn something?
That's, there's so many young leaders. I work with Brooklyn Combine, which is an organization, a community organization in Brooklyn, and they do a lot of outreach with everything from young people to law to community work. There's Community Fridge, that Asmaret, she's out of Brooklyn, but she actually has a community fridge project that she services around Brooklyn. She really inspires me as a leader. I have a lot of reverse mentorship, meaning that I mentor a lot of people, but like you guys inspire me truly, like what you're doing, the work you're doing. And I feel like I get to learn from you while you learn from me. And the people, Miles Hopkins, I work with him, the same thing. So there's so many people. I think the beauty of mentoring is you get to exchange energy And really, I think the challenge for people as they become more seasoned in life is not to become rigid, but to
Hmm.
keep an open mind and an open heart, and to understand like everything evolves and changes. The one constant is change. So to be open to it so that you can understand and not become a dinosaur, but keep moving forward and keep growing.
Yeah, and you are certainly doing that. I mean, you touched on a little bit of it just a moment ago, but you're branching off into all these new ventures in the health and wellness space and the nonprofit and global stewardship space. You're writing a memoir, as you mentioned. I mean, tell for the listeners out there who want to support you, tell them what you're up to and how they can support you and what to look out for.
Oh, sure. So I wrote a book called Walker Gems, Get Your Ass Off the Couch, and that's available on Amazon and at walkerwear.com. You can get that. It is really inspiration for anybody, whether you're starting or you're on a continued journey. It just really gives you a lot of gems for your journey, along with some tools for it and inspiration. I also am developing a course right now that's going to be kickstarting your streetwear brand. That's going to talk about 5 things I wish I would have done when I started my streetwear brand, but fundamental elements that you need to create a successful blueprint for your brand. So if you're starting out or you've just started a brand, it's an essential course for you. I also am doing a digital academy under it. So that will be my first course. And the digital academy is April Walker's Digital Academy. We're going to have a host of great courses, and it's not all fashion. So it's just lifestyle, entrepreneurship, makers and creators, and things that we really live that we want to share. So that's coming. And then the memoir, which I'm really excited about, that we're writing right now, and look for that. I think if I would have to explain it, I would say right now the vibe, it could change, but it's like Shoe Dog meets Will, if you read any of those books.
Well, Shoe Dog is actually, I can speak for Rob and myself, is one of our favorite memoirs ever. Obviously, big fans of Nike, maybe not as big fans of Phil Knight as of recent, but either way, we're really excited to read it. And hey, if you need copy editors or anything, we're here. So,
Okay.
um, but before we go, I mean, obviously, thank you for imparting all this wisdom on us. We always appreciate it. But before we go, we like to do a little segment called Spin the Wheel, run some, fun topics by you that Ryan, our producer, pulled together. And we'll just get some hot takes before we head out of here. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Let's go.
All right, let's hit it. Ryan, what are we going to get? Oh, right on the edge.
East.
Right.
East versus West. So this one obviously speaks for itself. You very famously, were both friends with and styled Tupac and Biggie, who really stood as kind of like these totems of what it meant to be from New York, what it meant to be from LA. What does East versus West mean to you?
It means walkaware, because I think when I first designed my line, I designed my line with workwear meets fashion, and it was fashion, fit, and function. And I literally thought about Carhartt and Dickies. And I also thought about the vibe. At that time, I was traveling a lot to the West Coast, so I really liked that clean look with Chucks. And then I also wanted like a Coach jacket that was just less is more, and then I wanted durability like denim, because that was so New York at that time, like oversized. I wanted something that was um, very oversized construction, but very clean, and that was durable to go with your Timberlands, because that was very East Coast. So I tried to marry that in making timeless classics that could fit the East or the West Coast. So I would say that would be walkaware.
A bridge, a bridge between the two coasts, which I know there still is a rivalry. I mean, I'm from New York, so obviously you know where I lie, but I know a lot of.
And I was born in LA, so Rob and I
Me
can argue a
too.
little on this one. There we go. See, Rob, you're 2-1, so it's over.
I
Well,
love both, so I have love
I'll
for both.
accept that because you know why I'll accept that, Tucker. Let me ask
Why
you
is
a
that?
question, my friend. Where do you live right now?
I live in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, stand up.
Exactly. You live on the East Coast. Can
This is true.
we run another one?
Yeah, I want to hit one more.
Let's
hit
do
one more. Ryan,
Come
let's
on.
run
I'm
it.
excited to hear the answer to this one.
Let's see what we got.
Oh,
luxury streetwear. So this is one that we thought was really interesting because obviously like streetwear came from a very real and utilitarian place, and now it feels like every brand has some element of streetwear in it. You know, how do you feel about kind of quote unquote luxury streetwear?
I think streetwear is such a huge industry in the dollars and the actual industry that the category is expanding. So it's just like with gentrification, like when you have now Bed-Stuy has so many new names, and like Cobble Hill has so many new pockets, and that's what luxury streetwear is to me. It's just another way to expand the dollars there, because it's to me it's pretty contemporary. A lot of the luxury streetwear that I'm seeing, it's more contemporary than it is streetwear. But like I said, if I'm looking at it from high school perspective, when I was in high school, I wore Gucci. I don't wear it anymore, but I wore it. And when I wore it, it was with streetwear in mind. Like it was lifestyle.
Yeah.
So now I guess there are designers that are saying, move over Gucci, we got this. And so maybe they're saying they're luxury streetwear. So I guess I understand it in that sense.
There you go. That's very full circle and a good place to wrap, I think.
Yeah. Well, April, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And like Tucker always says, I mean, we get a lot of wisdom from you. And I think today we're granting our listeners that same opportunity, which is great. And, as always, thank you, April. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Continue success.
Thanks. Yes. Thank you, April. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode. We'll catch you next time. The In-House Podcast is an in-house production. The hosts of the show are co-founders Tucker Radecki and Rob Lubin. The executive producer is Ryan Radecki. Mixing, editing, and digital production courtesy of Ryan Radecki. This podcast is available on Spotify. Our episodes are also uploaded as videos at youtube.com/@InHouseInc.